This is the English Literature Web YouTube channel. I am Prof.L.B.Gayakawad is teaching today the topic short story. This is the lecture first and the part first. At first we will see the origin of the short story. Remember, when we see the origin of the short story, we know that or we understand that there is the person and every person wants to listen to the other person. It means that other person tells a story and the first person wants to listen to his story. In this way, this storytelling has become the civilization of the man. It means that from the birth of man, this storytelling has come with the man. The second thing is told here that this man is a social animal, and being social, this man takes interest in the successful stories of his friend or relative. It means that there are many persons who create the successful stories, and these successful stories become the lessons or moral lessons to the other people, and that's why such other people want to listen to such stories. Hence, man gives birth to the storytelling, and that's why here the explanation is that man has given a birth to the storytelling method. There was the oral storytelling tradition in the past time. It means that in the past time, man was telling a story to the second man orally. Means there were some persons and the person was telling that story orally. Orally means he was not writing that story. And this oral story produced the great epic called Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. So such type of great epic has been created by this oral story. The anecdotes functioned as a type of parables in Roman Empire. Now this short story goes to the anecdotes, and these anecdotes is called the type of the parables in Roman Empire. Anecdote is an abridged realistic narrative which has a point. It means that the anecdote is a brief, is the shortcut. Realistic narrative. Narrative means it is the story. Narrative means the way of explaining the story. And that's why the anecdote is called the narrative, which has the particular point. It means that this narrative or this anecdote has the particular principle, has the particular moral lesson. Then there is the point of the fable. There is the fable which is called an exact story or a tale with an explicit moral. It means that there is the type of the short story, I will say, that is called the fable. This fable is the exact story, the exact tale, and it is the open moral. Means this fable tells the open moral, means there is the open, means explicit moral message to person. The fable was invented in the 16th century BC by a Greek slave called Aesop. Remember, there was the Greek, I will say the Greek slave, and his name is Aesop. This Aesop has invented this particular fable in the 16th century, which is called BC by the particular situation. Hence today, the ancient fables are known as Aesop's fables. So these fables are called the fables of Aesop. Aesop, I will say, they are called the fables of Aesop because this Aesop was the, I will say, a slave, and this slave has created all these fables, and that's why these fables are called the fables of Aesop. Short story is shorter than a novel. Remember, the next thing is very much uh, descriptive, that the definition of the short story is that the short story is not longer than a novel, means the novel is longer than the short story. The short story deals with only a few characters. It means that there are a few characters, means there are the limited character in the short story. This short story shows only a single effect. Single effect means there is the single description, or there is only the single effect. It means that there is the only one single action, or only one single philosophy, or the single purpose of the writer, and that's why the short story shows us only the single effect or a few important scenes or episodes. Means there are only the important scenes or the episodes, that is called the single effect, and with this single effect the short story is written, I will say, or spoken or narrated by the short story writer. There is the economy of setting. It means that the writer makes the economy of the setting. It means the setting is really written by the short story writer with a shortcut or with a proper way. It means that he does not make this setting as a complex setting. Means he does not make there the complex plot. Means the setting is very easy and the plot is also very easy. The character there is open in action. Means the character in the short story is always open for the action and dramatic encounter with seldom full development of it. It means that the character is painted there with the dramatic encounter and seldom full development of it. It means that there is uh, not the particular development of that character. Means that character is developed there to the limit of the description. After the 19th century, the short story was regarded as a distinct literary form. The discussion is that before the 19th century, this short story was the limited short story. It means that it was not available in the developed form. But after the 19th century, the short story became into the existence and it became the important part of the literature. Though it is the modern genre, the short prose fiction is nearly as old as language itself is. So the point is that the short story, just we saw that the short story was told orally, and that's why this short story is as old as the language is. It means that the short story has the biggest history, and it has started as the man has taken birth on this planet Earth. Short story is a work of fiction in the narrative prose. It means that this short story is a work of fiction, means it is the story, it is like the novel, and it is said as the novel is said in the description. Short story has also the elements of novel, means novel is discussed, novel is written in the same way the short story is written. But in the short story, they are used limitedly to bring the good effect. But when the short story writer writes the short story, he uses all these rules and regulations limitedly, and in the novel they are used unlimitedly. That is the point. The short story shows only one scene and a single plot with a single sitting with a short duration. Means everything is there shortly, and everything in the novel is longly. The short story shows no fixed length, means the short story has no fixed length, means its length is sometimes less or sometimes more. The order of exposition, that is the comprehensive description, then conflict, then intensive action, then crisis, then climax, and resolution, that is a firm decision, changes from a writer to writer, means all these things are changed as per the writer. If the writer is classical, then he does all these things classically, and if the writer is modern, he does all these things modernly. So these things differ as per the writers. The short story is written by the writers with a different or typical and innovative way, means all the short story writers write the short stories with the innovative way, as the typical way and as the different way, means different techniques are used by them. So here we have finished the topic, that is lecture first of the short story, and again we will see the next part in the next lecture. Till then, thank you very much.